Oh man, this is just absolutely awful news for us. As if you are a PlayStation fan and you have not loved their absolute explosion as far as live service titles go, it looks like the live service phenomenon is still going to continue over at Sony. Jason Schreier speaking with Spawn Wave noted, and their plan, I mean, Horizon Online is their next product, not the third-person single-player game looks like, so that one might be a ways off. Yeah, I mean, like, Sony PlayStation is like live service initiative was no joke. Everybody was like, it's live service games all around. Horizon is one of the few ones that hasn't been canceled or hasn't come out and flopped the way Concord did, and so yeah, a lot of questions, a lot of people are working on that. There's a lot to go over as far as this is concerned. Guerrilla has been, in my opinion, outside of Insomniac, one of PlayStation's top studios. You see the level of investment that they have in Horizon, almost to a comical degree. Don't get me wrong, the level of investment that Sony has put towards Horizon has honestly been a little bit funny, but let me say, while I do hear from a lot of people that have divisive opinions on Horizon, I absolutely love Horizon. It's one of my favorite PlayStation franchises. Horizon Zero Dawn is legitimately one of my favorite games of all time. Horizon Forbidden West, I thought was a technical and gameplay improvement upon Zero Dawn. However, I thought they went completely off the rails with the narrative, but I do think they can rebuild that. I actually like Aloy as a character. I think she has some nice character growth throughout. Am I saying she's the best character that Sony's ever created? Absolutely not, but I like her as a character, and I like some of the other characters. You know, Aaron is a pretty cool character to me. I find him pretty likable. And overall, I like the world, I like the universe, I like everything about Horizon. However, it is a little bit comical how much they are invested into it. But I will say, I would much prefer Guerrilla to be working on the third single-player Horizon game that we know is coming. Horizon is said to be a trilogy. I could see them expand far beyond a trilogy, and they are. Given that it looks like Guerrilla's next major project is going to be Horizon Online. I have no idea what to deduce out of that. However, it's a live service game. It's taking a popular IP like Horizon and baking it into a live service title. I have no faith. I have no confidence in that. Has Guerrilla done multiplayer games in the past? Yeah, they've done Killzone. Killzone's a totally different experience than Horizon, and it wasn't live service. Killzone was just a multiplayer game. It got some DLC. That's it. That's not a live service game. Live service game is intended to be monetized for eons and eons and chase that gravy train. They flopped with Concord, they canceled Last of Us, and Naughty Dog has been shelved for how many years, and they might not even put out a game this generation, and now we're doing the same thing to Guerrilla. Horizon already has a lengthy turnaround. It was 5 years between the release of Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. We're talking 2026, 2027 at the earliest for Forbidden West already. Excuse me, not Forbidden West, the third Horizon game, the sequel to Forbidden West. And now we might be making that even longer by making them work on an online title. Why are we doing this? And I guess Concord wasn't a big enough a flop. I guess Last of Us factions getting canceled and thrown out the window, that wasn't a big enough flop. We gotta go through Fair Game and we gotta go through Horizon. This is going to be a tumultuous period in terms of getting through this nonsensical live service push, this wave of live service that Sony is so desperate to pop off with. And why are they chasing this bag? Obviously, we know why they're chasing the bag, because the proverbial bag is there. They are salivating at the thought of it. Concord being the next Star Wars that they can monetize for eons and eons. Now, Horizon is an IP you can monetize for eons and eons, but I would prefer it to be done in ways that could potentially be lucrative in terms of games that also I would enjoy to play. More Horizon games, expanding on the world, looking at other different characters, not some online nonsense. Horizon has been built as a single-player franchise, and yes, am I being negative about it off the rip, not even knowing what this game is or what it's going to entail? Yeah, you're right, I am. But this is because Sony has had very lackluster first-party output. This is because the online projects that they've put out have either been canceled or have been trash, like Concord and Last of Us Factions. I know Helldivers was published by them, however, it wasn't developed in-house. Arrowhead kept the essence of what made Arrowhead Arrowhead. Guerrilla is now being shifted to work on a live service game. That is the difference. You're taking taking one of the most talented studios under the Sony umbrella and you're pushing them to do the live service nonsense. And look, the live service model can work. I understand why they're going for it, but it's just not what I want to see out of Guerrilla. And you're now shelving another studio, one of Sony's premier studios. You're shelving them to do live service nonsense. And I even look at something like a Horizon Zero Dawn remastered, and that's what makes people meme on Horizon a lot. Stuff like that, and their emphasis of Horizon. But even with Horizon Zero Dawn remastered, I think if you assess it in a vacuum, it is fine. It's a $9.99 upgrade for a 7-year-old game, and I will say the visuals look a lot better. The issue with Horizon Zero Dawn, and let me reiterate this because I think it's worth reiterating, is the optics of the situation. If this was a year where Sony put out, let's say Ghosts of Yotei came out this year, let's say Last of Us Part 3 was actually being worked on and Naughty Dog put that out this year, and let's say, like it happened, Astrobot came out this year. If you had those 3 titles from first party and they decided, hey, we're gonna do this upgraded release of Horizon Zero Dawn, I assure you, some people would meme on it, but for the most part, nobody would care. It's because of the optics of the situation of Sony putting out a $700 console with no software, Concord being a gigantic flop, one of the biggest flops in gaming history, and their first-party output being so lackluster. That's why it's time to pile on something like Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster, because it's nonsensical when you're talking about dropping no first-party games, when you're talking about promoting a PlayStation 5 $700 console around PlayStation 4 titles, and then you're re-releasing another PS4 game. It's the optics that make Horizon Zero Dawn Remaster's re-release so bad. It is just laughable at this stage, and we just put out Last of Us Part 2 earlier this year. So screw off, Naughty Dog and Guerrilla. Go do your live service games to monetize your IPs that you've built at this point. While you do those live service games, let's re-release the titles you've already done so you can work on titles that hopefully will help us chase that bag, chase that gravy train. Last of Us Factions was a dud. That's either never gonna come out or it's been permanently, or not permanently, but iced for quite a while. Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered is going to come out from Guerrilla, but now it seems like Guerrilla has been iced and they're going to do Horizon Online. Who knows when that's going to come out, 2025, 2026, and then is the priority going to shift to Horizon 3? Is that going to be a PlayStation 6, PlayStation 5 cross-gen title? I don't know, but I want to see Aloy's story conclude. I want to see this trilogy conclude, and by the time Horizon 3 comes out, you're talking Horizon Zero Dawn was revealed in like 2015. From the reveal of Horizon Zero Dawn to the conclusion of this trilogy, we're talking 2028, 2029 potentially? Like, this is ridiculous just because you're shelving these studios to do live service games, and then also, the game development time has gotten so freaking long that on top of these studios being shelved because the game dev time is so long, if these live service games don't pan out, like a Last of Us Factions or potentially like a Horizon Online, you're gonna be left waiting even longer than what the already incredibly lengthy game dev cycle is. It is going to be an absolute crap show, and the worst part about it all is the fact that they have no competition to actually check them. I've been saying this for over a year. I've been saying this for a long time. Guys, for the best possible PlayStation experience, PlayStation needs a direct competitor. It is not about Xbox versus PlayStation. This is selfishly looking at the lens of you being a PlayStation fan. You should absolutely want Xbox to do as best as possible. You want Xbox's first-party output to be absolutely ridiculous. You want Gears of War to be coming out being received incredibly well. You want Fable coming out 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10s. You want Forza to get consistent releases. You want Avowed to come out and be great. You want Bethesda to not be washed and put out great games. Why? Because that pushes Xbox forward, and that will ultimately push PlayStation forward. This is the cycle of life, but so many people are entrapped in this PlayStation versus Xbox thing and don't realize that this is worst case scenario for PlayStation fans when you're talking about Sony can get away with doing whatever they want, pushing their studios aside to chase that live service bag. $700 console, which I'm not even as down about as most people, but raising the price of PlayStation Plus, doubling the price of Horizon Zero Dawn just because they're releasing a remaster, which I can't believe people are defending that. It is insane. But that is why Sony can get raising the price of their DualSense controllers. I can go on and on and on and on. But what happens is when PlayStation doesn't have a direct competitor, PlayStation 5 is still going to be shattering records, and it's still going to be the most successful console of all time for PlayStation. So why do they have to care? They're looking at their revenue reports and they're like, all right, we could just chase this bag. These guys are still going to buy the game, buy the console, buy third-party titles. We have no competition. We're straight chilling. And guess what? They are straight chilling. That is the best possible thing for Sony as a publisher. And let me reiterate to you guys, it is the absolute worst case scenario for all of us because they hold all the power. They have all the cards in their hand. When did Sony first party have their back against the wall and they had to pump out great game after great game, and we didn't know if it was ever really gonna pay dividends? It was at the height of the PlayStation 3 when their back was against the wall against Microsoft. That's when Uncharted popped off. That's when all of these IPs started popping off, and that bridged us into the PlayStation 4 catalog of titles where they really took off with games like Last of Us, and I know that was end of PlayStation 3, but you get what I'm saying. Just so many major titles on the PlayStation 4, but this generation has been pretty trash, and I really do believe a big reason of that, obviously the world was shut down, but on top of that, you're talking about PlayStation living in a world where they have literally zero competition. And let me reiterate again, worst case scenario for the consumer. That is just always in any area, any walk of life, when you have no competition, that is when things are gonna be the absolute worst for the consumer, and it is what it is, I guess. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, thank you for watching, and goodbye.